Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. I'm so excited to be here with my guest today, Dutch, who I met through a current client that I'm working with, and she was actually on the podcast as well, Kathleen. And that's when we talked about menopause, muscles, and mindset, and that was a really fun episode. So if you haven't listened to that, I would definitely check it out. But she introduced me to Dutch, and I went to see him, and he is phenomenal. I was blown away, and I was like, "You need to come on the podcast, talk about what you do, because I think it's just well needed." And a lot of people don't, yeah, know about it or just aren't familiar with um, the specifics that he does. So we'll dive into that today. But he owns MP3, which is Move Past Pain to Performance, located here in Denver. And he's a neuroplasticity coach and trainer. And I'll kind of have him elaborate a little bit more about what he kind of helps with. But I'm just so excited that you're here with us, Dutch. And I can't wait to dive in on the neuroplasticity and all the work that you do. So thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you. It's an honor to be here. I just love what I've learned about you, and you're obviously just a super sharp trainer and get a lot of stuff just spot on. I love what I've heard from your other podcasts, and I'm excited to be here.
Yay, I appreciate that. Thank you. So why don't we just start with you sharing a little bit more about Move Past Pain to Performance, what you truly are doing, and a little bit, you don't need to go into full detail, but a little bit of what led you to that,
Mm.
what you're doing now.
Yeah, great. So basically, I had a lot of little aches and pains accumulate through life. So for the better part of 40 years, if you ask me any day what hurt, I could tell you. And I've had some significant pain. I've had upper surgery on my spine, C6, C7, was herniated, and I experienced surgery on that back in my early 20s. I've had sciatic pain and shin splints and almost every minor injury you can think of. And so basically over a long time, and over that time I was also competing in several endurance events, marathons, 100-mile bike rides, and climbing 14ers and stuff. But over that period of time, I usually had something aching. And when I'd go to a doctor, I'd typically get a statement like, well, let's try this pill, take this medication. And I wouldn't be able to say this then, but I can now in looking back at in retrospect, and is that I never really had anyone say, let's take a really solid, full, complete history on all your stuff. And that's where the brain gets involved, right? It's like, well, let's think about everything that's ever hit you and ask what was it? How hard did it hit you? Or how hard did you fall? And what did it knock loose? And maybe the neck thing's related to the sciatic pain going down your left leg. Maybe it's related to the irritable bowel thing that you've got going on. But that didn't happen. And so one of the problems with medicine today, and I love medicine today. I think we have, some of the greatest medical availability and opportunity to get health care and cared for by our doctors than any place else on the planet. But it's not perfect. So one of the problems with our medical practice in America is that it's too siloed. This is a very well established, agreed upon thing. You go to one doctor and they say, well, let's look at this thing over here. And they don't really talk that well to the other doctor who says, let's examine this thing over here. And they consider that in their siloed greenhouses. And sometimes that chatter of, hey, let's connect together and see if the dots connect is missing. Such a big missing part of the puzzle. And wonderful clinics in the country like the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic are the rare ones that look at the whole animal and they say, let's kind of get all the brains together around this person and do the best job we can at healing him from multiple modalities and disciplines. So at any rate, I'm going to doctor after doctor, maybe 5 a year, different. I got desperate, so I went to all kinds of different modalities. I've tried all kinds of different things, acupuncture and chiropractor and all those things that some people are afraid of. I don't think they should be, but we want to try everything we can. And there's wonderful benefit people can get from acupuncture and chiropractic care and so many other great modalities. And it was, in fact, a medical massage therapy that began to open this door for me. She was a highly trained medical massage therapist, and she blew me away when I started talking to her because she did a better job listening to my history than anybody else I'd seen. And she listened through a grid. I could tell she was listening, filtering stuff and putting it in different files, figuring my stuff out. And when she touched my back and kind of dug her elbow into exactly one spot for exactly, so many seconds, I got off that table and felt better than I had like in decades. And that lasted
Wow.
for about 6 weeks. Now, I felt better. I'm not going to say I was entirely healed. That didn't happen until years later. Um,
Mm,
but about 6 weeks long, I lasted with a more functional body than I'd had in decades.
that's
So,
incredible.
yeah, she kind of opened the door. And looking back on that, I went to that. I was so interested in what that technique was. And that was basically um, neurokinetic therapy was what that was.
Mm,
She just had a deep understanding of what muscles worked with what muscles and how they could
hmm
get compromised together. And she knew about low spinal stuff and how it can get mixed up.
So advanced. Yeah, like something I've again haven't heard about before. And how long ago was that you met
Yeah,
this woman and started learning more?
that would have been about 15 years ago.
Okay.
Yep. Actually, no, it was longer. Let's put that at 20 years ago. And then I got certified in that modality. And then when I went to that, it kind of opened the door to meeting all kinds of other people, professionals. And at neurokinetic therapy training, I met chiropractors and physical therapists and people who did all kinds of things, uh, and got in touch with some of the greatest, I think, therapists in the country, and was able to go through training with them and ask questions and learn about these
Wow.
other possibilities. And it was there going through neurokinetic therapy that I heard about something called Z Health. And I kind of got dragged into Z Health, kind of kicking and screaming. I didn't really like it. I didn't when the first time I heard about it, there was like this guy doing eye exercises in a hallway, and it looked kind of weird. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm doing my exercises. They're helping my shoulder feel better." I went, "Well, that's just the craziest thing I've ever heard. I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole." So, but as it turned out, in a real circuitous way, I kept hearing about this organization that did neuroplasticity and brain training and weird stuff with people's eyes and jaws. And I went, well, if it's working for these people, maybe it'll do something for me. I
hmm
was still recovering from my pain. I was still figuring this stuff out. I didn't find the full solution in neurokinetic therapy. So I went on, and I'll tell you, the program with Z Health was pretty interesting. They have their carrot that they dangle for the trainers that started to go into their program is a $250 weekend event. It's actually 3 days, and they do not hold anything back. They give you amazing tools. And one of the tools that I learned there, that first experience with Z Health, was an ankle stretching routine that kind of stretches the front and the back of your ankles. Now, I'll just give a little blurb
hmm
here that you could ask in some notes if that I could give people kind of a quick reset or a quick, like, wow, this is pretty
Yeah,
cool for me.
yeah.
This is a pretty simple thing. It's on my YouTube channel, which is MP3 space TheraTrain. You'll see that name in my website and all that kind of stuff in the notes. But YouTube channel MP3 TheraTrain ankle tilts is the one you want to look at. I learned those that first weekend, and I was in Washington State. After that weekend, I just felt good. I felt alive. I felt invigorated. I was feeling really just so good that I decided to do a hike. It was an 8 mile hike, and of course I'm doing some endurance stuff anyway, and so I'm trained to do a rather strenuous hike. But on every hike I'd ever done before, something hurt at the end, or I would twist an ankle. I mean, every single time. It's just a matter of when that would happen, not if it would or not. And I'm starting to launch up this 8 mile hike on Mount C and Colorado in Washington. Highly recommended. It's a gorgeous hike, and I'm feeling better and better and better. There is no injury coming. In fact, the term was used through this exercise. We can inoculate your body against injury.
Wow. And
So
that's with your ankles. Just
Yes.
okay.
Now ankles are chronically injured, right? They're
Yeah.
getting twisted, they're getting shoved around. And one of the problems and why this is brain relevant is because in so many ankle injuries, it's not the thing that injures us. It's the body and the brain's overreaction to the position. So you
Mm,
fall into an ankle kind of traditional sprain, lateral ankle sprain, and your brain's unfamiliar with that position, so it goes danger, I better
hmm
tighten everything up. And it's that tightening, that threat to the brain that causes the injury. And a lot of injuries happen that way. So I've done these ankle stretches. I've taught my brain that they're safe places to go. And as a result, I'm just getting faster and more energetic and more power as I'm going up Mount C. It was so much fun. And I
So
got down and I was just giddy. I was like giggly because I felt so good.
that's so amazing. And is that like the connection? Because I was going to explain that, but you're right, where your brain, right, sends that signal like there's danger. I need to protect my, yeah, ankle or whether it's your knee, and then tightens up, it's a safe mechanism. But when you're doing, say, yeah, these simple techniques or exercises, what is happening there? Like, if you could give like a brief, overview, like, is that just reconnecting, your brain to that area to be like, it's okay to be in these positions? Is it like, what's happening neurologically?
Yes, so there's two really, really big things. And what I want to say now is that the body is an extension of the brain, not really the other way around. I mean, the body is an extension of the brain. When you said the brain's an extension of the body, that's not really true. It pushed all this stuff out. It's our body is the way our brain interacts with our environment and the world. So if there's a part of our body that's not working quite right, we kind of want to go back to there must therefore be brain involvement. So my bias is there's always brain involvement. And I could be wrong. Maybe there's something out there that's purely biomechanical. Like I hurt my shoulder, I just got to do this and it feels better.
Mm,
Maybe that exists. But my bias coming into this, since it was how I was chronically
yeah.
broken for so many years, was I had to do um, brain training. So in my body, for instance, I can use this as a really good example because I kept on falling into these gaps of I'm injured and it's shin splints for a while, and now it's a sciatic pain, and now it's the stomach upset that's going on, and one after another. And these aches and pains would sometimes last for uh, months. My sciatic pain was something that had probably lasted for about 20 years on and off. It got worse and better, and I didn't know why, and nobody could explain it.
hmm
So when we consider that the body is an extension of the brain, the word that I want to really highlight here is it needs to be competent. I put competency above strength and then strength there right after. But my body was strong, but it wasn't competent.
Mm,
And this gets a little dicey because it goes into how I might have described my ankles. My ankles were chronically getting hurt every time I'd go and do something a little strenuous. Or if there was a rock I could kind of tilt off of and kind of get a little ache there. Never anything significant. But what I wasn't seeing in my life was this incredibly athletic person that I am, that we all are. We are incredibly athletic beings. And I wasn't experiencing that. And the reason I wasn't is because of this body that lacked competency. And a great deal of that competency for me revolved around my spine.
mm.
So,
So, so like, I'm trying to think where I want to take this, but like, and so during this time when you were, yeah, had sciatica and these different pains, aches, um, were you also, I would assume, right, doing all the other things, right, like strength training or whether it was PT or
mhm.
chiro, and still having that pain? Is that right? Is that kind of what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like let's dive into the sciatic pain, for instance, and because I deal with this a ton. In fact, I think one of your questions if I could jump to that one, I know
Yeah.
it's coming, was what's your kind of favorite client to see?
Yeah.
And
Your ideal client.
I kind of love these people who show up with low back stuff.
Okay.
And I like any client. Anybody can come see me for all kinds of crazy things and whatever that is aching in their body. But low spine stuff can be so ridiculously easy to fix. And here's what my problem was. It's where no one was talking to me about this, but it's the magical glute medius. All right. It's a
My favorite
massive,
muscle.
oh, it is totally my favorite muscle. I've been able to help so many people just by telling them what that is
Hmm.
and what it does. Um, my sciatic pain was there because I didn't really have that muscle. I didn't know how to have it or how to train it on the left side of my body. As a result of not training that muscle, which does lateral abduction. So it's what you see athletes doing on an agility ladder, darting from side to side. Great lateral work is the bodies we have. They're able and they want to do that. So I wasn't doing anything like that. I was going to my desk. I was sitting, I was running, but running doesn't involve the glute medius that much. It's
Hmm.
nothing lateral. I was doing a lot of biking. Biking is my thing in the triathlons. I'm strong on a bike, but that doesn't get the glute medius very much at all because it's a lateral movement you're missing. So we have these incredibly athletic, competent bodies that even if we're training at a pretty high athletic level, if we're not getting some muscles in the body trained in that dynamic way that we are built, like we're built to dart side to
Hmm.
side explosively, things are going to start to fall apart. We need those muscles for stability. So with my glute medius, as when I figured out how to train that, that if I got that stronger, all those tightnesses that were pinching down on my sciatic nerve, the piriformis that was pinching down on that nerve could start to relax and
Mm.
be confident they could live in an environment that was stability rich. Now I don't have any. And while I appreciate the chiropractic care that I got, um, I didn't get that muscular information from
Hmm.
those that I went to. Again, no
Yeah.
slide on chiropractors. I love them. I think they're great. And there's some that would have given me that training, but
Hmm.
not the ones I saw. They adjusted me, but they did not say, this is what we do to eliminate that from ever happening again.
Wow. So like what other problems specifically do you solve?
Okay. So basically what I want to answer that with is to say those that others don't seem to be able to.
Hmm.
So if someone has been to their PT and it just hasn't, fixed the thing, they've been to their doctor and the medicine just hasn't fixed the thing. They've maybe, I kind of jokingly say that the prerequisite for seeing me is you've been to at least four other specialists who couldn't get it done. And that's the folks that, because that's who I was. I'd been to several other specialists, and for whatever reason, it just wasn't working. And so it's a difficult question to answer because my training went on for about 5 years. It's a really thick, very in-depth. I have 250, literally 250 line items of stuff. When somebody comes into me, I start the filtering process through 250 possibilities. What's wrong with this person? Could it be this? Could it be that? And I'm watching everything, how they move, how they walk, how they talk, um, everything. And so in a way, it's like I've been trained and I try to train my clients into understanding the language of the brain.
Mm.
So um, if I see somebody and when they walk, they're kind of slumped to one side, one shoulder's internally rotated, and something else is going on funky in their gait. The way we walk is very telling, and I'm listening carefully, watching carefully to how they walk. Sometimes it's listening because you can catch a foot scraping against the ground subtly. It's not a real obvious limp, but they're limping. And when you pay close attention to that, that becomes a brain thing because walking is a reflexive action. It's why we can walk all day. We don't need to think about it. It's not hard. It's reflexive. Our brains are programmed for it. But if the program's a little broken, walking is going to be messed up. And if we walk bad, chances are our body's going to be in pain, and that pain is going to be hard to heal because the program for our most basic exercise seems to be a little bit out of tune.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think our brains start to get out of whack or like out of tune with even just the simple act of walking? Like,
Mm.
these daily activities, right? Like, w I mean, I'm sure there's multiple reasons, but why does that happen?
Mm. Yeah, then it gets into what I call the fuse box. So if you go into your kitchen and the toaster won't turn on, the refrigerator lights off, so the refrigerator's probably not working and you can't get the dishwasher to turn on, you don't think, gosh, I need to buy a new dishwasher. You go to the fuse box. You think if I just
Mm-hmm.
click a switch over here, maybe everything powers up again. I just need to find the switch that's not working. And the brain and the body there's a part of the brain that looks so much like a fuse box. It's got 12 wires coming out of one side, 12 wires coming out of the other. It's called the brain stem, the PMRF. It gets into a medical term for that, but I'm not going to go into that right now. It's just boring medical jargon. But at any rate, those 24 wires run your body. They're super high priority. They make your eyes move, they make your tongue taste, they make your organs work. These are not low priority, just subtle
Mm-hmm.
things. They are so amazingly important. So, Sarah, one of the things I love that question you ask. What do you think happened? Why is it that this might have turned out that way?
Yeah.
And this is a big transition for medicine. And gosh, there's so much I want to pack into what I'm about to say. I hope it comes out smoothly and intelligible. But when you go to your doctor today, it's often just about getting to feel okay again. I just, it's almost like it's acceptable to be sent out just limping.
Yeah.
And and yet we have these massively talented, crazy, powerful bodies. So medicine does not yet ask that question. How do we get this person who is kind of limping coming in to be extraordinary going out, to be amazing, to be athletic and like able to climb mountains and
Mm-hmm.
stuff? That's the question that's not being asked. And that's what I ask. How can we get Dutch, who was broken for 30 years? I mean, the average bear would say that guy's not going to be any better than that. He's going to be
Mm-hmm.
limping for the rest of his days. But to ask, is it possible? Is it possible? And then we have this fuse box that is so incredibly powerful that no one really looks at.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to your doctor and say, my elbow hurts and my back, I got the sciatic thing and I got the shin splints going on, and my stomach's starting to get upset. And the doc doesn't yet go. Some of them do. There's a few very talented folks in the country, more than a few, maybe 10,000. And they'll say, let's go to the fuse box. Let's see what's happening there.
Mm-hmm.
And when they start checking that out, things show up in some very interesting ways. Very interesting ways. And yeah, so one of the fuses is your jaw, right? And that's weird, but in a way, if your jaw doesn't work great with expert precision, there's this priority stack in the body. And in that priority stack, your kneecap or your knee isn't in the fuse box. Your jaw lives there. Functional jaw movement lives in the fuse box. And I'll say it this way, your knee can't fix your jaw, but
Mm-hmm.
your jaw might be able to fix your knee because this is the fuse. Similarly, your eyes. There are several nerves that come out of that fuse box that are connected to your eyes. And I can't tell you how many knees I have repaired in people by having them do eye exercises. It's crazy,
It's so
just
crazy.
so fun.
And yeah, like when I went to see Dutch, he, went through like a little of assessment, kind of my body. Like, again, I don't have anything that's really aggravating, but I definitely have, my left shoulder I definitely did something to it a while back and it's still not the same. And so we analyzed that and also my hip stability because I could tell when we did like a single leg squat, my right hip wasn't as firing as much as my left. And just it was just wild. I was blown away with just like the simple eye movements you gave me and the jaw exercise. And like we were able to have more activation after doing those. And it felt way more stable. My shoulder felt a little bit better. I was blown away. I was like, what? This is silly. Like
Yeah.
that's where there's that point where it's like, this seems silly. Like, how could that simple thing, make such a big difference? So it kind of leads to one of my questions, which is like, how do you think this approach will shift, even just modern medicine, or how to have more buy-in with this type of
Mm.
approach?
Yeah, yeah. I think it is, and it will eventually, because it's science. It's people study this stuff right now. It just hasn't made its way into
Mm-hmm.
mainstream medicine yet, but it's coming.
Yeah.
I think honestly, in maybe 15 years, maybe 20 years, medicine will look back on what's happening today and say we were just barbarians. Because it's just silly the things that we're missing, the questions we're not
Mm-hmm.
asking, the fact that people like me have to show up and say, well, maybe I can get it right. Um, so, but I think
That's,
it's trending the right direction. And
yeah, that's good.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's,
But you are starting to see this stuff show up more in high level
oh,
athletics.
really?
Yeah, so there's several videos out. They're easy to find in YouTube. I don't have any at my fingertips
Yeah.
right now, but if you look at neuro athletic training, you'll see top level champion MMA boxers doing light eye visual
Mm.
exercises where something lights up and they have to duck under it or they have to hit it based on what color it is. So there's this really uh, a very important transition happening with eyes and athleticism today. What does our athletic performance have to do with our eye performance? And we're starting to hear things for this first thing, like being able to see quickly. What does that
Mm.
even mean?
Yeah.
There's a coordinated aspect of movement and vision and those working together that is has something to do with inoculating us against injury, and that has something to do with transitioning us to being more powerful athletics, that has something to do with being able to roll out of a bad situation and
Mm.
into, health and out of danger.
And yeah, I feel like your eyes, right, have a lot to do with just your coordination in general, like your balance. And is that because I know you explained this to me, and if you don't mind sharing again of like where your eyes like neurologically are they connected to every part of, your body and that's what kind
Yeah,
of controls it? Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, I compared the human eyes to a dog's nose. Like a dog without a
Ooh.
nose would not have a very great life. And it is like the dog's most important neurological structure. And for us, it's the other way around. Our eyes are so incredibly powerful. And so it's kind of ridiculous that we don't train them.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's the other way around. We are sort of trained to detrain our eyes. And if it's true that our eyes are connected to all of our muscles, which I'll get into that, they are. Uh, but then if we start to fail at eye skills, or we're not training our eyes at all or paying any attention to what they can do today compared to last year or 3 years from now, I'm neglecting the most powerful neurological structure in my body. Dr. Andrew Huberman says that our eyes are structures, they're made of brain material, and it's like they've been smushed out of our brain. They're
Ooh.
incredibly powerful. So
Wow.
you can't really do anything with any other part of your body like your eyes to just, when moving them around and looking out at things, activate so much. I mean, I can tell you when I move my hand around what brain parts
Mm-hmm.
activate, or when I move my big toe, what brain parts activate. When I move my eyes around and observe stuff, I'd have a hard time telling you I've got grids and diagrams of Rhesus monkeys of them mapping what happens when they see stuff. And it's incredible how their entire brain is activated. not just the occipital region, but the whole thing. So with our eyes regarding movement, right? If we need to reach up, here's how they're connected to muscles. Um, in the most basic way, when you look down, all of your muscles of flexion
Hmm.
are extra activated. Your eyes help those. So when you're curling, doing a basic curl, that's a
Yep.
body flexion exercise. You'll be stronger curling if you look down than if you look up.
Yeah. I did hear that. I remember in a Dr. Humorin podcast episode, kind of related, not really, but he was just saying how, if you're constantly like looking down, like your computer or whatever, you start to get more sleepy or tired, and that kind of makes a little bit of sense because you're more in like flexion, which that's a not very powerful position. So I thought that was really interesting.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just think it's really wild that now today we think about we're always on devices, technology, they're probably getting worse and worse. And then, you add on the glasses, contacts, like
Yeah.
rather than just, training your eyes. And I don't know if that's something that,
Oh,
uh,
this is huge. If I could share just something
yeah,
that's slightly terrifying, right, about
fear.
this
We'll
situation,
take it. Yeah.
slightly
What is it?
terrifying, is when you know how when you stand up tall and you kind of throw
Yep.
your chest out, you feel better, you feel more confident, you feel alive and good and proud, and that is kind of a brain hack. So if you're feeling kind of depressed, just try that sometime. Just go, I'm kind of depressed. Obviously, you're going to be kind of shoulder slumped, leaning over and sad. But if you just say, I'm just going to stand up straighter and, see what happens. Most of the time, people are going to feel a little bit better just by making the effort to correct their posture. Well, we are detraining that constantly in our technology and the society. We're looking at these little computers, we're setting our desk, our focus is straight in front of us, about 12 inches away, and we're hunched over that thing. This is a hack on our brains the other direction. We are
Yeah.
drawing our brains into a fear and threat position, and therefore we will be more prone to feel
Mm.
fear and threat rather than being the brave, confident, competent, great athletic beings that we are, we will be more apt not to take risk, not to take healthy risk, right? Not to do what we're made to do because we're afraid. We are cultivating fear by our position.
It totally makes sense. And then if you throw on the content that you're looking at,
That
right?
can
Like
be,
the
yeah,
news, and then, right, like
right.
fear-based content, or it's you should be
Exactly.
doing this, not this. And
Yeah. Not to
that
say,
that's
right,
another,
right.
that's another layer, right? So you're gonna
Totally.
feel even worse.
Yeah, yeah.
We're starting to see that even more too. And so yeah, it's like structurally,
Mhm.
physically, mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need these devices. I think part of our dialogue needs to be, how can we do prehab for before when we use them, and then we
Mm.
have to use them all day maybe, and then we get home we have to do rehab because we've used them all day. So we've got to come up. Here's an important thing in what I teach my clients is the bodies we have, if you think anthropologically how we're made, these are still thinking that they're supposed to be running through a jungle, avoiding
Mm.
being eaten and looking for maybe what they're going to have for dinner. But there's this super athletic quality to what we are. And so the fact we're kind of hunched over in these positions, we're not ready for that. We haven't evolved to bodies that can do that yet. We're made for that athleticism.
Mm. Yeah, I love looking into that. Like I'm all about like if you look back at where our ancestors, what they were doing, how they were surviving, like
Yeah,
I think always going back to that is so key.
yeah.
I kind of want to go into the neuroplasticity a little bit and like what exactly that is and
Mm,
how we can kind of connect that to rewiring your brain to have less pain.
mm. Okay, okay. Um, so there's a couple of different ways to come at that, but sometimes our pain is there because um, this gets tricky. But
Because
pain,
like what I've kind of learned with neuroplasticity, like there's some, different books like I can't think of the top. I'm like looking at my bookshelf. I can't remember what they're called. But, your brain's ability, we now know it can change, it can adapt, it can rewire itself through experiences and even through injury.
Yeah.
And whether that's structurally or more functional.
Yeah.
But I
So
think there's, yeah, but I think
there's a,
there's a component where like, and then we can talk about, like some people do have pain, but then they start subsiding, but then they're still having that pain recurring. Like they
yeah,
start feeling good, then it'll come back again. And I
yeah,
don't know if that's part the brain just sending those signals like out of habit or protection.
yeah. So this is it's such an interesting subject, and books that you might be referencing are by Norman Doidge. There's the brain that changes itself,
Mm-hmm.
and the brain's way of healing. He wrote both of those. A fascinating pain researcher who is just incredibly fun to listen to because he's like a comedian. He's just
Oh,
funny
funny.
and smart. That's Lorimer Moseley. Lorimer, Lorimer, Moseley, Moseley. And these people have really just sort of surfaced since about 2000. Our understanding of pain really has exploded since the year 2000. And one of the ways it has exploded is in the research around phantom limb pain, where people with a missing leg may have excruciating pain in the pinky toe of the missing leg.
Mm.
So it's crazy how that works. You don't even have a leg, and yet the pinky toe down on that limb that used to be there, that's what hurts, but it's not there. And so this has allowed the researchers to ask the question, where does pain live? Sometimes it doesn't have anything to do with the location, the address at all. It has everything to do with the brain. And something that we learn in my curriculum is that pain is brain output. It is
Mm.
not input. The brain takes the incoming data and decides that it's pain or something else. It chooses what to do with it. So sometimes we have to, well, in practically with all of my clients, we have to have the conversation of what happens when stress goes up. Pain
Mm.
almost always goes up, and so few people recognize that. And then some people are in such a chronic stressed state, we may do everything on the planet, including everything I do, to try to resolve that pain. But if we can't take care of the stress, that pain
Mm.
is not going to go anywhere. The way that gets kind of miswired, and you might think of it as a faulty fuse, is a highly threatened brain is going to want to keep you safe. And one of the best ways to keep you safe, and this sounds weird, but it's the way we're wired. One of the best ways to keep you safe is to make something hurt. So you will
Wow.
stay inside, go lay down, and just sleep or rest or do anything to stay safe. That's what a highly stressed brain will do to us. It will actually create pain. And it'll go back to a well-trodden pain pathway. Like let's say you had a knee injury in high school football or whatever, and it was repaired. You had surgery or the MCL,
Mm-hmm.
it all got fixed. But that brain still remembers that pain. It doesn't matter if it's been gone for 10 years. If you hit that super stressful life situation and your brain goes, I know how to put this guy down. And it
Mm.
can produce that pain in the weirdest of ways. And it can start to, I had a client, this was fascinating. She would, we got her knee to feel quite a lot better. It was actually her knee that got, she actually, I can't even get into the train wreck of a disaster that happened, but it was a mess. And we got it to feel better. And about every 6 months for about 3 years, she would call me. And I knew her history because that's what we do here. We take a really solid history. I knew what stress meant to her. And I knew that when stress hit, her knee erupted. It doesn't happen that way for everybody. It does for a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us. So 6 months in, she calls me, Dutch, my knee's killing me. I'm trying all the stuff that we tried. All right, well, Beth, how's life right now? Tell me what's going on in life. And she'd go through, her 2-year-old's driving her crazy, running all over the house. Her husband's traveling all the time. She never sees him. And before, in 15 seconds, I'm going, okay, when was the last time you took a big deep breath? And maybe you just need to breathe. And we would, like, coach, have a couple of meetings where we just go, let's settle the body
Mm-hmm.
down. Let's do whatever we can to turn down the sympathetic nervous drive here of fear and threat in life, and do whatever we can, meditation, breathing exercises, whatever we can to tune up the sympathetic or the parasympathetic rest and digest system that we all really want to rely on.
It's really powerful how much, again, these simple, like the breathing techniques really play a role in helping people deal with their stress. Like that
Mm,
has helped me a ton. And I know other people too, especially when you're in such a high stress like environment or like with work life.
mm.
But we often forget it. We
Yeah,
often forget like it's the simplest tool to use whenever.
yeah.
How does someone though like so yeah, I know you mentioned like the breathing, but like when it comes to rewiring the brain to perceive that pain, what does that look like?
Okay. Um, Again, this is really complicated, but I'll dive in from a couple different angles. Um, so there's a part of our brain at the top of the brain stem that's considered the pain gateway. It's that part of your brain that decides for you whether or not to elevate that feeling to conscious awareness. The pain gateway does that automatically. That's the top of the fuse box that
Mm,
decides that. That is close to all these eye exercises and other very, very critical neurology that drives your whole body, any missing piece of which maybe we die because it's that important. So these are called cranial nerves that we're talking about in the brain stem. They're incredibly woven into what gets elevated to conscious awareness. Now, part of the brain's job is to inhibit that, to knock stuff out that we should not care about. So if we're sitting here right now, if you were aware of every sensory sensation hitting your body, you'd go crazy. We are made to ignore 99% of that stuff because it just doesn't matter.
hmm.
So what is getting consciously elevated? There's two big problems that can occur. I can have a weak functioning frontal lobe. That's actually very, very important. So let's say I'm the kind of person who worries a lot. I have uncontrolled thoughts. I have uncontrollable urges. That means these are sort of hints that you get in somebody's history, maybe that their frontal lobe may not be doing the great job it ought to be doing at inhibiting general stuff. So
Mm.
it lets anything in. So maybe there's frontal lobe stuff that we have to do for the body. Maybe some complex tasking, maybe some good complex workouts that start to train it to be a better frontal lobe, to be a more powerful inhibitor of just general junk it should be better at ignoring. That's good frontal lobe training. I actually lead a stoicism group on elevating the CEO, is what I call it. Anybody who's interested in that, please get in touch because I'm very excited about helping frontal lobes be better frontal lobes to improve our own CEO function. So that's one part of the equation. The other part is what's happening back here at the brainstem, where all those cranial nerves are, where the eye movements are. Now, let's say that we lack an eye movement capability, convergence for one, like the ability to narrow your eyes at a
Mm.
letter or a pencil right in front of you. That's convergence. It hits cranial nerve 3 really powerfully. Cranial nerve 2 is your ocular nerve. So just being able to see clearly is important. And sometimes we actually ought to train that to some degree. Seeing clearly is a trainable thing for most of us.
See, I thought so. I've been like learning about this, how like there's been different things I'll see where people are like, I've improved my vision and like I see clearer.
Mm.
Um, and I thought that was so yeah. I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear that's real.
It is. Now, there's certain situations that people get in. Maybe if there's if their eyes are deteriorating rapidly for one syndrome or something else
Mm-hmm.
going on, there's complexity.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I improved my vision from 2050 in one eye to 2025,
Wow.
which is a pretty significant shift.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that I'm as healthy today and as strong as I am. But those two in particular, cranial nerve 2, the ocular nerve, clarity of sight, and cranial nerve 3 for convergence and several other eye movements, live at the top of the brainstem. So let's say one of those is lagging, like the nerve just isn't activated enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm losing that eye skill, maybe more rapidly than I should. What is the relationship between losing eye skills and pain in the body? Most people would never suggest there was a hint of a
Yeah.
relationship. I say there must be. I have to check the eyes for their capability, because if your eyes are starting to lag in performance, they have everything to do with the pain gateway.
Mm.
Now, think about the math here. It's not as bizarre as it at first might sound, but doesn't it make sense that your brain is primarily using your most powerful neurology to assess the safety of your environment, right?
Yeah.
So it's looking through these fantastic windows to go, am I safe or am I not? And then if these windows start to get cluttery, that either by lacking vision itself or an eye muscular skill, my environment becomes subtly more dangerous. So therefore, the pain gateway has to be a little more hyperactive. It has to be more like, oh, well, stuff is threatening that didn't used to be. So I'm going to elevate more stuff to the brain to say it's danger, it's red alert, it's pain.
I'm blown away. I'm like, I don't even know what to say that to that. Um, I mean, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, when you think about it, like it's how we are interacting with the world, right? Our eyesight and what we
Yeah.
see. And like you said, and, and then I'm like thinking, I'm like, well, what if someone, yeah, like doesn't have great vision, or they're blind,
Mhm.
like even that's a whole nother thing, right? Like, so it's very fascinating. It makes a lot of sense when you explain it that way, that your environment's going to be more cluttered and you're going to become more aware of your sensory system in your body of like your pain. Do you feel like the you're like say, you're lacking, yeah, your cranial 2 or 3, your body will produce pain, not produce pain, but like just
No,
look
yeah,
for
no, I
it.
think
You know
it
what I mean?
does.
Like not cause, but you know,
No,
start
I
to
think
think different.
you're actually saying it correctly.
Yeah.
Your body can create pain. Your brain can create the pain, either as a goal to make you stop, to make you go inside, to
Yeah.
make you stop doing what you're doing, or it can simply get the math wrong, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
getting this incoming data,
Yeah.
but the data is a little screwed up because the neurology at the pain gateway isn't really intact. And so it's has an inclination to see pain where instead it's just information.
Mm-hmm. And I believe that, right? Like that's basically your body sending the red flags. There's so many red flags that we have that everyone's dealing with that we just ignore. And we're just like, oh, that I've been dealing with that for so long. Like it's just who I am. It's what, this part of aging or whatever
Hey,
the excuse may be, right? And we ignore all those. And I think those are signs to listen to, whether it is like, yeah, your vision's getting blurry or you're having that nagging pain in your shoulder. Like that's information, like you're saying, information to your body to maybe I should look at that, like where it could be coming from. Because oftentimes, right, as a trainer, when I'm assessing a client and I'm working with them, listening to their story, a lot of times, if say, yeah, they do have some pain or have dealt with like some body aches, I'm gonna I tend to always look at the sites right below and above the site of pain. So if it's their elbow, looking at their shoulder, their wrist, and but this is a whole nother right approach, right? Like especially if it keeps happening or they're not finding a correct solution, there's more to look at, especially with, like you said, the eye movements and your jaw.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Other things that are just important that are trainable things that
Mm-hmm.
they're just not on a map to think about yet, but they will be maybe in 10 or 15
Yeah.
years. How about taste? How does your
Mm.
taster work? it's incredibly important neurology. And some of us lose our taste over time, or our taste depreciate. It's not as good. It degrades over time. But when
Mm-hmm.
does that happen? And if on the other hand, we kept it more trained, if we paid attention and did, let's say you went to someone like me or a neurologist once a year who was there to help you stay in high performance. Well, just like the other things we've sort of hit on, jaw movement, eye movement, tongue taste, and tongue movement, that's another of these critical high priority cranial nerves. So if
So
you
cool.
start to lack taste on one side of your tongue, that might mess with the pain gateway because all of
Mm-hmm.
a sudden you've taken this super high level neurology and gone, it's not performing like it used to, but there's a trickle down effect. And that's what we're now beginning to see
Mm-hmm.
is that, okay, we've got to prioritize keeping this upper neurology really intact. And let me just go into the tongue for one more second.
Yes, I was gonna say because you did, like Dutch had me look at my tongue strength. I don't even know. He's like, pull your tongue to like the side of your cheek and like feel. I
Yeah.
like it was so fascinating. I was like, I've never looked at how strong my tongue is.
Yeah. So this is something fun that people on the podcast could do. If you're tuning in right now, you could stick your tongue into one cheek and try to push it back into your mouth and see how strong that tongue feels. This is a tongue strength assessment, just like I might test your tricep or your bicep at the gym. Now, stick it into the other cheek and see if it feels strong. If it's real spongy going in one direction or the other, that there's implications for brainstem performance, and there's implications for other muscles throughout your body because of how your tongue is indirectly connected to all these other muscles. So I've had people move their tongue around and feel
Hmm.
like their hips were better. Um, it's really also one of those history things we have to listen more to, like, because if we know that these are important priority structures and we got a guy over here or girl and she's not getting well, the pills aren't helping, the doctor she's seeing aren't helping, well then we have to ask, what are the obvious things that other people might be missing? Has
Mm.
anybody asked her to move her tongue around? And in a history, there might be an injury. Maybe she was in a skiing accident, got a concussion, bit her tongue. And there's implications all over her body for that tongue injury, but nobody has looked at that. They've looked at the concussion, they've looked at other things, but there's a tongue performance issue. She can't stick it into her right cheek and have it be strong there. So she has to strengthen it. And then that's the magic. Maybe
Wow.
it fixes
Yeah.
everything.
So amazing. So cool. Because when you go side to side, I assume there's different nerves that connect on the left side compared to the right and where that connects in your body.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you press it into your, just for the exact
Yeah.
way this works, if you're interested, if you press your tongue into the right cheek, it's the left brainstem, cranial nerve
Mm.
number 9, that's pushing it that way over across to the right side. So that's pushing the tongue out from the left to the right. So if it's weak going to the right, we might say, okay, what's going on the left
On
side of the
left.
brainstem, and how can we activate that better?
So cool. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That was really helpful. Yeah, like because I was going to be, I know we kind of went over that briefly, the ankle tilts with just a simple exercise or te technique people can try
Mhm.
to kind of tap into seeing their strength or seeing, to kind of reset maybe their nervous system or just their overall reduce their pain. Would that be on YouTube or is there any other,
I've got about
ones that,
20 videos on YouTube, and
okay.
would kind of challenge anyone to try this experiment. If anybody listening right now has any pain whatsoever, and you do all of my YouTube videos and you still have pain, I'll offer you 2 free appointments. That's about a
Wow.
$400 value.
Wow.
So
That's so
if you watch
generous.
all my videos and you can't do anything, can't solve the pain in any way, we need to talk some more. But I think
Wow.
you could find hope in any of those. There was something else that came to me as we were kind of talking. One thing we discussed earlier was how can I tap into maybe a supernatural way of kind of kicking in my parasympathetic
Yeah.
nervous system? And something I love, I don't know if you've heard of this, is the cry sigh. Have you heard of that?
Where you do a long sigh? No,
Kind
maybe.
of.
I don't know.
It's
Yeah.
what we do after a long sob. And this is so beautiful. It's
Oh,
one of the most powerful breathing things I've ever seen, where we kind of take 3 sips of air inhaling and then exhale a long extended exhale. It's what we do after a good hard sob. And it's
oh my,
so relieving and so peaceful, bringing. So just, I'm going to do it right now. It just
okay.
looks like this. And if you do that just a couple times, you're going to feel your whole anatomy shift. Everything's going to calm down just a little bit.
Thanks for sharing that. I like that. Yeah, I've heard of like a silent scream before, like I've heard of like a long sigh. Like
Yeah.
um but yeah, so it's fast, 3 fast inhales.
Yeah. Just like
And
it's sort of relaxed. Just
yep.
imagine what you do and you'll feel it. As soon as you
Yeah.
try it, you're going to, oh, that's what I did last time I had a good hard cry. It just,
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. That'll be really helpful for people to yeah, do at any point to
yeah,
reset yeah,
true.
your
Yeah. You're having a
sympathetic.
hard day at work. Just try it. Just chill your world a little bit. Take the edge off of it.
I love it. I have a few last questions I want to ask you. What would you say to anyone though that, maybe similar story to yours, right? Has tried a lot of th specialists, tried a lot of things, they're still dealing with pain, or whether still are feeling just stuck. Maybe they are dealing with some neurological challenges. What would you say to give them hope?
Mm. Well, something that I often say to my clients that they have to overcome, and it's kind of a challenge but a compliment at the same time, is that you are an incredible athlete. You are an incredible athlete. Um, Most people have no idea how strong they are, how incredibly powerful they are. And if we can begin to insert that seed, plant that plant into the brain and say, you know, you've got so much potential. And I'm speaking from a place of authority here. I know
Mm,
how powerful these brains are. I've studied them. I've seen how far mine has come. And just to give you a little window there, I came from what would be considered an extremely abusive, very dark childhood. And the fact I am here today with a fairly functional frontal lobe and brain uh, means anyone can make it.
wow. That's such a great mantra too. Like we are incredible athletes. I think a lot of people don't believe that or feel like they lack that identity to be an athlete. But you're exactly right. We're so strong and so adaptable and so resilient.
Yeah,
And that is beautiful, your journey of sharing. Thank you for sharing that. And that I think is going to help a lot of people know that there is hope. My last question I want to ask you though is my signature question, and that is where I ask, since my goal with this podcast is really to help people have an open mind, open mindset, right? Like overcome their fears, lean into growth in all aspects of their life. If you don't mind sharing, just like what you have done in your life that took tremendous growth,
mm,
but
yeah,
came with a lot of fear to start.
yeah. So I, I knew you were going to ask this question, and I'm very grateful for it. And it gives me a chance to be very authentic, and I am going to honor that right now. Um, so part of the work I've done, it's part of the hardest work I've done, um, has been through a program, and some of your listeners, I hope, will try this out. For those of us who experienced a very difficult childhood or very traumatic events in life, there's a program called Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. That's ACA, but they've added that component on Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. So this is an amazing program. I visited a few groups before I found one that really resonated with me. But this program is about neuroplasticity. It is
Mm.
about changing your brain. For those of us who come from very abusive pasts or had that traumatic experience, our brains get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
We get stuck thinking that we're worthless, we'll never amount to anything, or
Mm-hmm.
everybody we love is going to hurt us. And it takes work,
Mm-hmm.
harder than a 500-pound bench press for sure.
Right. Anything in the gym. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is brain rewiring at its best. And if any of you are in that category, please get in touch with me. I'd love to talk to you, Sarah. I'm sure you would love to talk to those folks who I love the name of your podcast, right? It speaks to that person who might be stuck in fear. We're going to grow past that. We're going to get past that. We're going to climb to a higher territory. We're going to see and learn about the incredible athletic beings that we are. But this is the best of neuroplasticity for me. And I've been able to heal so much from connecting with others, from learning about how stuck my brain was and the tendency I had to ruminate in thoughts that were just absolutely incorrect. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. It does. And that's amazing organization. I've never heard of it. I'm not sure if others have, but I think a lot of people can check that out and utilize it because I know a lot of people there's certain people I've heard stories of that have dealt with these type of things and it's challenging, especially when you get into adulthood and you I think that's when those issues start to arise or you start to become more aware of why am I acting this way? Why am I ruminating or why do I start getting mad at a partner or something for a ridiculous reason? It could be whatever it is. And I think we always, when we get to adulthood, we start looking back at, well, how was my family life? How was I raised?
Yeah.
How was my childhood? And
It
so
makes
this
me
is,
think of Socrates' most famous quote, the unexamined life is not worth living, right?
oh,
It's those questions of why am I acting this way? Why do I hold this value with such a fierce grip?
hmm that's a beautiful quote too.
Mhm.
Yeah, awareness is everything. And thank you for sharing that. I want to put that in the show notes too, that organization. And do they just have different like groups around the
Yeah.
US?
It's
Okay.
global. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
all over the world. Yeah.
cool. Perfect. Well, Dutch, where can listeners connect with you? Your social, whether it's your website,
Yep.
social media.
Yeah, so there's the website,
Cool.
mp3-theratrain.com. MP3 stands for move, three move, M is move past pain to performance, that M and three Ps. And then my YouTube channel. Of course, I'm on Facebook at MP3 Therapy and Training. So just look me up anywhere and I'd love to connect.
Yay. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so
Dutch,
much for having me.
it was so fun and I've learned so much and I know the listeners will too. I think this is going to blow their mind as much as it did mine. And I hope, again, definitely connect with Dutch if any of you are dealing with chronic pain and just have, like you said, if you've been through 4 specialists, still can't solve it, you're recovering from injury, or just want to improve your performance, reach out to Dutch. You'd love to
Thank you
help.
so much, Sarah.
Yeah, of course. Thank you again for coming on. It's been so fun.
Definitely.